साढ़े चार सारे सारे पढ़ता है क्या कर रहे हैं तुम लोगों के में सब उसका आदत में कर सबको पता नहीं है आगे अरे खाना समझ हाँ नाव खराब है मिट्रा नहीं हाँ नाव खराब है मिट्रा नहीं नहीं है सपना बोल रही है दिखा नहीं दिखा मैं तो बोला नहीं दिखा नाम तेरा नहीं क्रोम दिखा Go. सब लोग डीडी खा रहे हैं, कल एग्जाम में अच्छा नहीं आया। सब लोग यहाँ पे डीडी खा रहे हैं, सब लोग यहाँ पे डीडी खा रहे हैं। डीडी पार्टी।
व्हाइट सूट पार्टी
देखा क्यों करते हैं? सुबह ही
व्हाइट सूट पार्टी
आरसीबी
वही एक्सपेक्ट कर रहा
आरसीबी क्या?
आरबीसी बोला
क्यों?
वॉशरूम में नहीं रह के खेल
हां
जॉर्ज हैज को
my era is gone
कुछ भी
क्या सच में
Bro, bonus
my
one.
era is gone
सही में होती है बोनस वाला है ना
हाँ।
पक्का सवाल पूछो तो दिखाएंगे फर्स्ट ब्रॉडकास्ट किसका था
हां
फर्स्ट ब्रॉडकास्ट किसका था
मैं ब्रॉडकास्ट फॉलो नहीं करता खरीदता नहीं
ब्रॉडकास्ट के पहले क्या था
हां
ब्रॉडकास्ट से पहले क्या था
मेगा बॉक्स
नहीं ये पीछे था स्मॉल बॉक्स
ये फूटता सर।
वही तो है मेगा बॉक्स
स्मॉल बॉक्स और बिग बॉक्स मेगा बॉक्स जेम्स आया था
नहीं मीडियम बॉक्स कर लो यार।
मीडियम बॉक्स भी होता है मीडियम बॉक्स होता था पहले
नहीं
इंग्लिश
तो बिग बॉक्स वही इंग्लिश
तू फेंक रहा है ना
वो
मुझे नहीं पता मैंने।
तू नहीं खेल मैं भी
मैं 20 में चालू किया ब्लॉग
रेडी ना तो आना तो चाहिए भाई इतना देखो अच्छा ठीक है
मैंने देख लिया मेरा तो अकाउंट क्रेडिट देख लिया
सेकंड ब्रॉडकास्ट में
क्रिकेट खेलता
कौन सा सीजन था मतलब महीना कौन सा था मुझे
देसी बंदा है
मुझे
देसी
कैसे पता रहेगा
समर
क्रेजी। और जब कनेक्ट होती है ना हेड को मिडिल
उस्मान भाई मैं इतना क्रेजी हूं सोचना मैंने 6 में इतना खेल लिया 42 डेज 36 डेज 365 डेज होते एक साल में मैंने 42 डेज हट 6
अटेंडेंस
ओए तबीयत खराब हो गया आ गया।
अभी तो देख को तू ही देखा मैंने सुबह
ये तबीयत खराब है
दो
ना?
लोग आए थे
हां
अटेंडेंस चेक ना
ओए
इधर
तबीयत खराब है ना? तो इधर बैठना पागल क्यों? भाई एसी आएगा ना?
इधर नहीं इन दोनों बेंचेस पे आता है
क्या भाई बात पड़ेगा?
नहीं नया साइन बना दो
ओए क्या क्या
तो अभी आया क्यों बीमार
ये वैसे पीछे का ढक गया।
तू क्या मेरे पास अपना साइड है यार
अरे मैं 12 बजे चालू किया
और
रिकॉर्डिंग का पहला 1000 रुपीस 1000 रुपीस नेक्स्ट कॉलर्स
इस पर जा आजा मैं क्या?
26,000 रुपए के बाद और मैंने क्या को 4 डॉलर का
अटेंडेंस
ले ये बता के इसका फिर 2 आते 15 आते 4 आते
डेस्कटॉप
बहुत सही
नहीं,
वो क्लाउड है इसका ना क्लाउड शेड
मैंने कभी नहीं खाया
और मेरे को वो मिला था जो पता नहीं
तारीफ करते ही है
बड़ा
तारीफ करोगे
बॉडी
उड़ने भी लग जाती है
बॉडी
हाँ वो और
जैसे मैंने बोला था धूप पे ही
और वो लाओ ना सर जो गैलरी में
अच्छा आना है।
तेरे डिस्क्रिप्शन
ठीक कर रहे हो
क्यों?
क्रिकेट
तो मत क्रिकेट का मन नहीं कर रहा। अपना ले भाई तुम सही हो। सब क्रिकेट
विराट किसका कर रहा है विराट का भी कर रहा वो
पहला और मैंने गोल्ड
क्योंकि हमारे को जिताना है
बस
भाई
विराट कोहली आउट। ओए विराट कोहली 0 कर रहा है। या तो 50 मारेगा 40
कितनी
मारेगा।
ब्लॉक मिलते हैं
बताओ तो कहाँ पड़ा है
यूनिवर्सिटी के सारा ट्रॉफी पर प्रोजेक्ट ट्रॉफी
अच्छा तो वीडियो
रेशियो ज्यादा है मेरा
अच्छा से सुना तेरे को
तेरे कितने प्रोजेक्ट टीयर मैक्स
तो आया
एक बार
टीयर मैक्स टीयर
अरे क्या होता है पावर
नहीं तो पता है एक
अच्छा 42
नहीं अरे तेरा
हाँ नहीं
तो पर तेरा हाईएस्ट ब्रॉडर Trophy क्या लेना?
For you.
हाँ?
For you to rank.
Trophies for the purpose.
I don't know. For you to rank. जो पूरा downgrade हो गया. What happened?
Actually, I
Yeah.
did not play. That's why I did not
Yes. What happened? Sit.
Up.
बहुत अजीब लग रहा है ना? When people talk properly बहुत अजीब लग रहा है ना? अरे साले तू अंदर जा।
मेरे वहाँ से आप बुलाता ही नहीं करूँगा तो तू करके आप तो
बोला करो ना। बोला करो।
मैं ही सिर्फ आप बोलता हूँ कोई
आप
आप
कृपया करके अंदर प्रस्थान कीजिए। ऐसे बोल रहा है।
ये कुछ ज्यादा ही नहीं हो गया? Okay. Now, the next part of the chapter that we are going to learn would be the laws. But before that, laws of heredity we are going to learn. But before that, we are to complete with this the concept of types of chromosomes and their numbers. So we are talking about the types of chromosomes, numbers. What are the different types? What are the two types of chromosomes? The two types of chromosomes are autosomes and allosomes. Autosomes and allosomes, what is the basic difference? Autosomes, the first to the 22nd pair. How many pairs of chromosomes we have? We have 23 pairs. Total number of chromosomes in our cells, 46. Every chromosome is paired. Every chromosome that we understand, the 6th, the 7th, the 9th, the 12th, all chromosomes are paired. And the paired concept of the chromosomes you know now. Looking to your textbook, there is one figure, that is figure 3.2, the structure of the chromosome 3.1, 3.2, that is what is known as karyotype. What is karyotype? The arrangement of the chromosome pairs according to their size. The arrangement of chromosome pairs according to their size, that is what is known as karyotype. Okay. What was karyokinesis?
division of
Division of nucleus. Cytokinesis.
Division of nucleus. Bit more correctly.
Ma'am,
The division
the nuclear changes during cell division.
The stages of nuclear division. The stages of nuclear division, that is known as karyokinesis. And now we are talking about karyotype. Difference between karyokinesis, karyotype, you should always remember. Karyotype is the arrangement of the chromosome. The arrangement of the chromosome pairs according to their size. That is called karyotype. So now we were talking about the types of the chromosomes. The types of the chromosomes, and here we have already come across how many pairs of chromosomes, how many pairs of somatic chromosomes or autosomes, 22, how many pairs of allosome, 1. And now when we are talking about the XX and the XY, so here we are talking about the females, we have got identical pair of chromosomes and here non-identical. So here when we are talking about the XX, okay, this is known as the homozygous condition. Homozygous. And this is known as the heterozygous condition. So when we are talking about a concept of determination of the sex with reference to these chromosomes, now let us talk about this. I talk about a cell of the testis. The paternal parent, the cell of a testis. What is testis? The reproductive organ of the male body. And now that I talk about the type of the autosomes and the sex chromosomes, how do we differentiate? Here we will write down A referring to autosomes and sex chromosomes. What will we write here? X and Y, because I mentioned here the testis, the father. What about the numbers? We have to also write down their numbers. Numbers, what will we write? 44 plus 2. Total of 46 chromosomes. What about the other side? The other side, when we write, this would be autosomes plus XX. What about their numbers? 44 plus 2. This is about the cell of the reproductive cells of the mother, that is the reproductive cells of the ovary we are talking about. Next, the process of formation of the gametes. The male cells, the cells of the testes, will produce 2 types of gametes because the sex chromosomes are of 2 types. So what would be the type of the gametes? The type of gametes would be half of the gametes would be containing the X chromosome. What should the number be? 22 plus 1. Half of the gamete would be carrying the Y chromosome, 22 plus 1. We are talking about the male gametes. What about this side? The type of, here we are only talking about the type of gametes. Remember, the gametes are always formed by the process of meiosis. If I have to mention, what type of cell division is involved in the formation of the gametes? Definitely, I have to talk about a process known as meiosis. And if it is meiosis, you understand, total number of cells formed should be 4. Total number of cells formed are 4. But here I am not talking about all the 4. Or if I write all the 4, then also they are divided into 2 types, because half of the sperms will have X, half of the sperm will have Y. So that concept you'll have to remember. What about this side? Here, A plus X, 22 plus 1. What about the other side? Here also A plus X, 22 plus 1. Meaning, here also I could have written 4, but all of them only 1 type. Here I am talking about all of them 1 type. Here 2 types. What about the next generation? If it is animals or human, majorly we use the word offsprings. What does that word offsprings refer to? Offsprings means the next generation organism. Now, in case of the gender of the offspring, how do we understand? If it is an egg-carrying sperm fertilizing with an ovum, if it is an egg-carrying sperm fertilizing with an ovum, then what are we going to get back is, after the process of fertilization, this is the zygote to understand. So, AA plus XX and 44 plus 2. If it is a Y-carrying sperm fertilizing the ovum, then it is AA plus XY, 44 plus 2. Then this particular zygote will give rise to a female offspring. This will give rise to a female offspring, and this will give rise to a male offspring. This entire concept that we are talking about, where it is the male gametes which decide what type of an offspring will be formed. So if the X gamete, X-carrying gamete fertilizes the ovum, this will give rise to a,
After that 50-50 is.
chances are 50%. Chances are 50%. So now this again in the other chapter on reproduction we will study a little bit detail. But as of now you have to understand the 2 types of chromosomes. All of you will write down this very nicely. Write this down. This is a concept of the 2 types of chromosomes.
What you were mentioning something about autosomes or somatics.
Autosomes are also known as somatic chromosomes, or also they are responsible for regulating all the processes, functions of the body cells. Meaning, what type of functions they will regulate? The release of the enzymes and the hormones and the pigments and the digestion and the respiration and everything. So the genes which are present in these 22 chromosomes will regulate all the body functions except anything related with reproduction. Then what are these chromosomes regulating? The 23rd pair, they will have genes which will regulate anything related with reproduction only. The formation of the enzymes and the hormones related to reproduction, the development of the reproductive organs, the gametes, the development of the secondary sexual characteristics, the typical male bodily, the female bodily characteristics. So ये वाले जो characteristics है, any of these genes will not regulate. So you get a statement.
So they are somatic. Do chromosomes also are there?
Germ cells, they are present in the germ cells. What type of germ cells are, what type of cells are these allosomes present? They are present in the germinal or the germ cells. Germ cells means reproductive cells, cells of the testes and the ovum.
Somatic means the soma.
Body cells. Soma means body cells. So when we are talking about this, so this is one concept which is there in your book. This you will write down. This entire concept, all of you will write down. Write this down. A concept of determination of sex based on the type of the sex chromosomes.
मैम मुझे समझा नहीं sperms 4 क्यों है?
Anna, 4 इसीलिए मैंने लिखा. Okay, if I think of meiosis, then how many sperms should one cell of the testis make? 4. What was the rule of meiosis? One cell will divide to give rise to 4 cells. तो यहाँ पे भी 4 है.
But only one is active, no?
नहीं. Types. Right now I'm writing only the types. तो यहाँ पे भी अगर मैं एक लिखती तो भी चलता. But then to make you understood very clear, I'm writing 2. Actually, you should write all 4. चारों भी हम लिख सकते हैं. But in short, we always write this way because अभी हमें नंबर की जरूरत नहीं है, हमें टाइप्स की जरूरत है.
That's
Still in sleep. What time you slept last night?
12 o'clock.
When you know that 7:30 का lecture है. Done. Very neatly, all of you will write. लिखा.
Yes, ma'am.
All of you take care, make a habit of writing neat, nice. That should be a habit. Wherever you are writing, whenever you are now, right from the first exam in your school, make it a point. Presentation, improve karo, make a habit of writing clear, understandable, presentable. Because now it is no more your school exam where your teachers know you. When we know the student by face and the behavior, quite a number of things gets neglected. Even if the child is not writing certain things very neat, we could look for that answer and give mark. But now that you are writing a board exam, nobody would bother. So remember, presentation pe dhyan do, make a habit of writing good, set a benchmark right from the first exam. So यहाँ तक clear है? Yes. Try B sub number 1. Try B sub number 1. Which page is it? देखो. Very short answer type में है B sub number 1. 37 है. हाँ. B sub number 1 करो fast.
Smash the comment.
Fast, fast, fast. Now,
Just a minute now.
B sub number 1 complete karo, then we will complete with number 4, distinctions between. Distinguish between, we'll complete with this, and then we'll start with the laws of inheritance. Others, speed up.
Yes.
Distinguish between, make a table, let us write this 3 first, karyotype and karyokinesis. Karyotype and karyokinesis. See the first question there, karyotype and karyokinesis. The first question, that is B sub number 4, B4. B sub number 4. Make a table and write down the first one, first difference. Karyotype and karyokinesis. Write down karyotype. Under karyotype, the photograph.
Where is the question?
That is D number 4. D number 4. Photograph that represents arrangement of chromosomes chromosomes, don't write chromosome pairs. Arrangement of chromosome pairs, just cut S from there and write chromosome pairs. Arrangement of chromosome pairs according to their size and shape, according to their size and shape on a chart, according to their size and shape on a chart, is known as karyotype. Other side, karyokinesis. Other side, karyokinesis. Answer. The stages involved in the division of the nucleus. Stages involved in the division of the nucleus. Ansh, you will write.
I'm writing among this karyotypes on C.
Ansh, Liko, not able to write answers properly. The stages involved in the division of the nucleus during cell division. During cell division is karyokinesis. Go to the next one, autosomes, sex chromosomes. Autosomes, sex chromosomes. Autosomes, sex chromosomes. Okay. Under autosomes, for autosomes and sex chromosomes, there can be 2-3 differences based on what condition you get in the exam. You can write. Let us write down both the differences right now. Number 1, under autosomes, right? This includes the first to 22nd pair include the first to the 22nd pair of chromosomes. First to the 22nd pair of chromosomes. Other side, allosomes include the 23rd pair of chromosomes. 23rd pair of chromosomes. Second point, for autosomes, also known as somatic chromosomes and regulates, also known as somatic chromosomes and regulates,
Body features.
Regulates all the body features and somatic functions. Body features and functions. All the body features and cell functions. Other side. For sex chromosomes, that is allosomes. Allosome. We have written sex chromosomes or allosomes?
Allosomes.
No, the head is allosome or sex chromosome?
Allosomes.
Sex
No, in the
chromosome.
textbook it's six.
Sex chromosomes you have written, no? So next you write the second point. Also known as allosomes. Also known as allosomes. Also known as allosomes. And are responsible for controlling all types of reproductive functions, responsible for controlling all types of reproductive functions of the organism. Reproductive functions of the organism.
When the secondary sexual characteristics are also
All comes there. All. Formation of gametes, hormones, enzymes, everything will be included there. Now, the last one is which one?
Homozygous and heterozygous.
Homozygous and heterozygous. Right? Will you be able to write on your own homozygous and heterozygous chromosomes? Homozygous and heterozygous chromosomes. क्या लिखना है? Homozygous and heterozygous chromosomes. What will you write?
contain the same type of allele for homozygous, either dominant or
Homozygous chromosomes, a pair of chromosomes which contain homozygous chromosomes, pair of chromosomes which contain identical alleles, for a gene. Heterozygous. Pair of chromosomes that possess or that carry, pair of chromosomes that carry dissimilar alleles for a gene. Dissimilar alleles for a gene. Mendel's laws of inheritance that we are going to talk about now is about certain theories, certain law that we are going to understand. These laws, first of all, few more topics are there, but let us take this big topic first. Now, when we are talking about the laws of inheritance, with all this previous topics that what we have discussed about the chromosomes and the
Karyotype is a chart.
it is an entire chart. It is a photograph. It is a photograph in the form of a chart which explains the arrangement of all the chromosomes, the 23 pairs of chromosomes that we have according to their sizes, the specific order is.
So now this is
That is karyotype. I asked you, to take those figures 3.1, 3.2 मैंने बोला था ठीक करके रखो. Karyotype as a diagram based question you get in your paper. Karyotype पे question आता है exam में. So take that figure. You should be able to identify. And it is just one figure. All throughout your syllabus इस तरह के खाली एक ही figure है. Then also students make a mistake.
what will the ask identify?
Identify
The
the chart and questions on that. बहुत तरह के जैसे अभी sex determination है etc.
How many autosomes are there?
Various different type of question for 5 marks के questions आते हैं. So identification, there also students will write anything. So now Mendel's laws of inheritance. What are we going to learn? Mendel's laws of inheritance first of all. The experimental plans. When we talk about what was brief history if I have to talk about Gregor Johann Mendel. Complete name Gregor Johann Mendel. Who was he? Gregor Johann Mendel was a monk. He was a monk. Now, Gregor, Austrian monk. So now, what was he doing? Gregor Johann Mendel was very much keen in plantation, trees, and etc. And then, often he used to observe that there are certain type of plants which show some contrasting features. Generally, whenever we talk about most of the plants will generally give rise to one type of flower, one type of leaf, one type of seed. But this type of plant, every time he used to observe that the type of flowers, the type of seeds were not the same every time. So that more or less grabbed his attention. And what he did is he started planting those type of plants, tried various different type of combinations, and he was aware about the concept of pollination and all these. So more or less, he had spent years on observing the process of growth of these plants. He had spent years growing these plants, allowing the process of pollination happen artificially, and then the different generations, what type of characteristics they give rise to. And then every time he was a bit surprised that if these are certain characteristics in one generation, why the characteristics in the next generation is not the same. And that surprised him every time. He was quite surprised that how come one type of a characteristic is not exhibited in one generation and again it comes in the next. So what was the reason that certain characteristics are skipped in certain generations? Sometimes some featured very prominent, sometimes some featured not seen at all. And the contrasting features every time. So there are so many things that he had more or less found it quite surprising for this type of a plant. So which plant are we talking about? We are talking about the garden pea. We are talking about the garden pea. The garden pea plant, biologically known as Pisum sativa. Pisum sativa. All of you will take a note of these names. When you write down this name, or you get question in your paper, give the scientific name, write down the scientific name of garden pea. Now, scientific name of garden pea in the chapter last year, brief concept about binomial nomenclature you had studied, right? So what was the concept of binomial nomenclature? Whenever you are writing any biological name, this has to be capital, this has to be lowercase, small letter, and both has to be underlined. Remember, if you are not following this method, marks get deducted. Okay. So in your school exams also, you will see teachers may deduct mark. So take a note that whenever this name I have to write, capital, the genus name always written capital letter first. The species name I cannot write capital. Species name I have to write small letter, and both has to be underlined. So only this to remember. Now next is, we are talking about that, what was the reason that Mendel had, Gregor Johann Mendel, remember? What was the reason that Mendel had selected the garden pea? Some of the reasons that he had selected, some of the reasons why he selected the garden pea was, this type of plants had a very short lifespan. Lifespan was short. Now, can you tell me, lifespan is short. How can this be a very good feature for a plant, factor for a plant for experimentation?
It will mature early and it will.
We can see the characteristics. So so that's the reason I think whenever we talk about plants with long lifespan, did we ever come across experiments on the mango trees and the banyan trees, or trees which are well developed and long lifespan are never a good example for experimentation? Why? The next and the next generation and what type of features they are expressing, how will we understand? Plants which has a shorter lifespan. Mendel selected garden pea later as his experimental plants, and as I mentioned, he had experimented with these plants and studied on these plants for a number of years. And later, what today we are studying as laws were not only true for the plants, most of them are true even for the animals and even for human. So when we are talking about the first feature, the first characteristic, why did Mendel select garden pea? Number one, the lifespan is short. Second is, these plants were self-pollinating. They were self-pollinating and also could be artificially pollinated. And also could be artificially pollinated. So they can be artificially pollinated also. They can be artificially pollinated also. What was the concept of artificial pollination that we have studied? Who remembers? Who can tell me this?
Emasculation and
Emasculation, bagging, correct. What was it?
Emasculation is when I think we attach a plastic bag on top
That
of
is
a
bagging.
Emasculation of the main parts we remove.
Emasculation is removed from the young flowers.
The stamens are removed, and then why the stamens are removed?
To separate the male part from the female.
Female part, and then
Then the flower is covered with a plastic bag, that is called bagging.
bagging. Now,
And then when it matures at the perfect time, then we take another pollen from another flower and then
The desired
artificial pollination. So what are we doing here? In this entire process,
cross-pollination.
we are manually trying to do cross-pollination for bisexual flowers. So now in this case, what's happening? The stamen has to be removed out, keeping intact the female part of the flower. The stamen is removed out. And after that, the entire part of the flower has to be covered with a polythene sheet or a bag. Why polythene bag? So that during this period of maturity, no other pollen from any other flower comes in contact with the stigma. And once this is absolutely mature, the stigma, the carpel is absolutely mature, then allow pollen from some other desirable plant to be brought and kept on the stigma. Almost powder on the start scattering on the stigma, and now allow the growth of the pollen grain to check what are the outcome of the features of the plant. So normally also they would undergo the process of self-pollinating. So now if I'm saying that the plant can on its own undergo the process of self-pollination, then what type of a plant is the pea plant? Monosexual or is it unisexual or bisexual? The plant can self-pollinate. The plant can self-pollinate on its own. So what type of a plant it is? It is a bisexual plant. The third reason why he had selected this was this plant exhibit 7 pairs of contrasting traits. So quite a number of contrasting traits he had observed in this plants. So 7 pairs of contrasting traits were observed in this class. So now you are already aware what is the meaning of the word characteristic and traits. So which were those 7 pairs of contrasting traits? We have to remember. because quite a number of times characteristics you are asked, and then you will have to remember which one is dominant, which one is recessive. So here, let us try understanding those 7 pairs of contrasting traits. So first is, I talk about the height. The height of the plant. What about the height of the plant? Tall and dwarf. The tallness always designated by capital T. Why are we talking about capital T? Dominantly always designated by a capital letter. These are the rules, remember. And dwarf always small.
Is it same for humans also?
Yes, all animals.
So tall is dominant.
No, for human it is not only tall and dwarf. For human there are other different alleles also. For human there are many other traits also. But yes, for human also there is a dominant and there is a recessive. Okay.
That I know that for human also that must be dominant.
Huh.
And the height.
Tall and for human also this is a characteristic. But not only tall and dwarf. There are so many. There are so many. So when I talk about people who are considered tall, also there are so many variations, no? Now, this is height, the first characteristic. Let us talk about all the 7. One is the color of the flower. What about the color of the flower? The color of the flower is purple and white. Purple and white. We talk about the color of the seed. The color of the seed. Yellow and green. Color of the pod. Pod means the outer green cover. All of you had seen the pea seeds, the outer green cover. Color of the pod, green and yellow. Shape of the pods. Shape of the pods, inflated and
Rectangular shape.
like constricted. That is called constricted.
Are you going to teach the Punnett square?
After this. One by one, you have to learn all this concept to understand the Punnett square.
Our Ram gave us acronym for this.
Huh?
Piggy rat.
Concept?
Piggy rat for this. The PIGYRAT for this acronym. You learn all this.
You can revise this. Shape of the pods. Now next is, let us talk about the shape of the seed. Shape of the seed. Shape of the seed is round and wrinkled. Position of the flower. Axial and terminal. Now, these few features that we are talking about, these are all the characters and these are all the traits. When we are writing down the traits, I just give you this first this idea here. Whenever we are talking about each of these traits, see there, tall and dwarf. Tall is the dominant. Whenever we will be writing down the crosses, tall always has to be noted. Always tall has to be designated with a capital letter. The contrasting dwarf will be always with a small letter, lowercase alphabet. Purple and white. For purple, if I am taking capital P is always taken for purple. But here for white, we will not take small w. Here we will take small p. Whatever letter we take here, it has to be contrasting. Same here, capital Y. If I take here, this has to be small y. It will go like that always. Capital G, small g. Okay, all over it will be this way. Capital I. If I take capital I, it has to be small I. So all over. Capital R, small r. We are not going by this letter. Axial. What is the meaning of axial and terminal? I think rest of the words already you understand. Axial and terminal. when we are talking about the type of the flowers, now if this is the stem, the branch, the flowers, in certain flowers we come across 1, 2, 3, 4, axial, terminal, this part of the branch of the twig all barren, the flowers are all here in the form of a bunch. So here these are the basic characteristics. So we are talking about the 7 pairs of contrasting traits. These are all contrasting. The phenotype, what was phenotype? The characteristics. Now that I talk about the tallness and the dwarfness and the roundness and the wrinkled features, these are all the phenotype that we are talking about. To start with the laws of inheritance, what are the different laws we are going to study? The 3 laws of inheritance. The first one is the law of dominance. Let us start with this. The first is the law of dominance. Now, talking about the concept of the dominance and the second law, law of dominance and segregation, what was the basic concept? The concept was Mendel had taken some tall plants and he crossed them with dwarf. What did he observe? Don't write this, just I'm explaining the correct format of writing, I will tell you. The tall and the dwarf plants, just try understanding. If you understand this concept theory, any type of a cross you should be able to do. The tall and the dwarf, when he crossed, the F1 generation, what does F1 stand for?
First generation.
अंश हो गया ना ये चैप्टर स्कूल में तो F1 stands for, now if you remember in that entire concept of sex determination, I said for human, for animals, when we talk about the next generation we use the word offsprings, but plants में हम offsprings word use नहीं करेंगे, we will use the word progeny or filial generation. Filial generation मतलब the next and the next and the next generation.
मैंने सुना offsprings plant के
Progeny, offsprings we generally, progeny, offsprings basically used for animals. But when we are now going to talk about the plants, for the plants offsprings अगर use होता भी है, but most commonly filial generations we will write. Here we will not write offsprings, no. We will write F1, F2, F3. इस तरह से लिखा जाता है. That is the correct format of writing. No definition for this. What is filial generation? Never asked. That is not a definition at all. But you have to understand F का मतलब filial generations मतलब क्या है? These are the parental generations. इससे जो next generation develop होगा उसको बोलेंगे filial generation. Okay. Now, what was the core concept? The concept was when Mendel had tried crossing the tall and the dwarf, he got all plants that were tall in the next generation. So he tried again and again and again, and every time he was getting the same result. Cross the tall and the dwarf, he gets only tall. What about the next? Again, he tried shifting the characteristics. So he took again the purple and the white. What type of plants he got? In the next generation, always the flowers are purple. Never he gets to see any plant with white flowers. So what was expected is that again, if I talk about the purple and the white, initially he felt that some plants should be showing the white color, but never it happened. In the first generation, no, the plants are either tall, the plants showed only the purple flowers. That was what he always observed. But he was very much sure that these features, the characteristics of this were very much there in this plant. The characteristics of this parent are very much there in this plant. The characteristics of this very much there in the first generation. Initially, he was not able to understand, so he had tried with many features. And when he got to see that the phenotype for the first generation was always the same, then what he did? He tried going ahead with the next generation. So what he did? He tried crossing the tall with the other tall plant of the same generation. So what he did? Cross the F1 plants now. When he crossed the F1 plants, In the F2 generation, what did he observe? In the F2 generation plants, he had observed tall plants definitely, but he also came across some small fraction of dwarf plants also. So proportion, if I have to talk about, they were roughly more in number, but this were they now. So now he is very much convinced what he initially was thinking, that these plants should carry this characteristic. So he is now very much sure that definitely these plants carry these traits, of course, but for certain reason these traits were not getting expressed in the first generation. And when he is crossing the first generation plants, this trait again get expressed in the next generation. So this was his basic concept. Now he started understanding the arrangement. So actually this went on for a few years, and this time when Mendel was actually going through all these concepts, Mendel had never used the word genes and alleles. He had only used the word factors. He said the factors from this plant or this parent generation entering into this generation should be present. Why does not it get exhibited in all these cases? It was after quite a number of years when certain other biologists, when they started doing these experiments, they had substituted this word factors for genes. So Mendel had never used the word genes. Mendel had always used these simple terms. The term gene came much later.
And who used the word?
Genes Wiesmann. So when we are Wiesmann.
Genes Wiesmann.
Yes. Genes is by the biologist Wiesmann. So when we are talking about that, when we look into the concept of factors, when we are talking about factors is actually what we are talking about as genes today, alleles today. Okay. Now let us try understanding what exactly you are supposed to write. How does this concept go? So let us start with this. Now with the help of alleles and with the help of genotype and phenotype. I told you we will start this cross this way. So first is the parental generation. What was the parental generation? For the concept of dominance, we are talking about the first law, dominance. Parental generation. What was the phenotype of the parental generation? Tall and dwarf. So we are writing down the phenotype. What is the phenotype? Tall and dwarf. All of you start writing down this cross exactly in this format that I am writing. In the exam, there are half marks for the steps that you write. This is absolutely like maths. You miss out the phenotype, genotype, steps, marks will be deducted. So tall and dwarf. Why this cross? Why this symbol cross here? The word symbol is used to designate that a process of pollination or breeding is happening between these two types of plants. So this is the phenotype that you write. Below the phenotype, you are supposed to write down the genotype. How do we write down the genotype? Letters, using letters. So what are we going to write here now? Capital T, capital T. So this capital T that we write is for the tall plants, the genotype of the tall plants. But why to write twice? Capital T, why to write twice? Because the chromosomes are always paired, and this is the story even for the plants.
Can the plant be medium?
Medium
Tall
meaning?
and dwarf.
For the pea plants, nothing was intermediate. Either they were tall or they were dwarf. But if I talk about, that is what I told for human. It is not only tall and dwarf. There are so many intermediate forms, right? But for the pea plants, he observed only this two. He observed only this two. Now, if this is capital T that we use, we will have to use small t for the genotype of the dwarf plant. So we write down the phenotype and then the genotype. What is the next step? We have to write down the gametes. The word gametes you are already acquainted with. What is the meaning of the word gametes? You know. What is the meaning of the word gametes? When the reproductive cells of the plants and the animals the reproductive organs are producing their specialized reproductive cells. So that you know. But here now, we are going to understand that this is a cell which will undergo the process of cell division. Try understanding. Don't draw this. I'm just explaining it. Now this is a cell of the tall plant. This is a cell of the tall plant. It has got a pair of chromosome this way. It has got a pair of chromosome this way, जिसमें alleles इस तरह से हैं. When the alleles are identical, what do you call this condition as? Homozygous. So, this is a cell which is undergoing the process of cell division. Most important feature is the pair of chromosome will split. Correct hai? The pair of, think about the concept of anaphase. The pair of chromosomes splits. If that is true and the pair of chromosomes splits, then what type of gametes will this plant give rise to? The type of gametes that this plant cell will give rise to is only one type or two types? Only one type. तो ये याद रखना, this is a rule. अगर homozygous है, the type of gametes is always one type. Heterozygous होगा, then it can be two and even more than two. So this is the first rule to understand. If the plant is homozygous, type of gamete produced is only one. But number of gametes कितना होगा? Again, now I am not talking about number. Number से अभी हमें कुछ नहीं करना है. We are only to talk about the type now. Number तो बेशक 4 ही होगा because we are talking about meiosis. So now the type of gametes. What is the type of gametes? We can write once. We can write twice also. So twice if I write, meaning I am showing both the gametes. Okay, let me write twice first. Later, as you understand, you can write once also. I am writing this is one gamete, this is the other gamete. Is this clear? Why do we write gametes like this? Gametes always to be circled and written. Gametes are always written in circles and circle करके लिखना होता है. What about this? What should I write? Small t, small t. So far clear? So now these are the gametes. Now we talk about the first generation plants. What about the first generation plants? The first generation, since the type of gametes are exactly the same for this plant, type of gametes same hai because they were homozygous. So if this gamete fuses with this gamete, which process are we talking about? Fertilization. Then what is the type of a plant that will be formed? The type of plant formed will be this one. This is the genotype, ऐसे लिखना है, heterozygous condition. And now you know the rule. If this is a condition and this is dominant, then this only will express. So what will be the phenotype of this? The phenotype will be tall. What will be the phenotype of this plant? Tall. But now, since we are writing down the cross, we can also write hybrid tall. Hybrid tall मतलब a tall plant formed by breeding of two contrasting, एक tall, एक dwarf plant का breeding से जब एक tall plant बनता है उसको बोलेंगे hybrid tall.
But your tall.
This is pure tall.
But hybrid is like it is not like tall इधर या hybrid tall इधर होता है कैसा है क्या?
No.
Then?
Hybrid tall का the tallness will be the same. The tallness may be the same. But how will we understand that this is a tall plant? Because Mendel knows, or whoever is doing this experiment, he or she knows that I have used a pure tall and a pure dwarf, and now this is what I get as a result. So it is understood that this plant will definitely have this trait and this trait both, but this is expressing because it is dominant. So pure tall क्या होगा and pure dwarf क्या
How
होगा?
is it decided which is dominant?
How is it decided which is dominant? Because after a series of experiments, it was always found out ये वाले plant को इसके साथ जब भी breed किया, हमेशा the first generation हमेशा tall ही आया. That is what I explained in the previous part. Yellow को green के साथ जब भी breed किया Mendel ने, the result in the first generation is always yellow.
So based on experiments we can determine which is dominant.
Based on rigorous experiments. वो एक दो बार experiment उन्होंने नहीं किया. We had done it for years. For example, is this concept applicable for human also? Yes, I would say the father has curly hair, the mother has straight hair, the child is exhibiting curly hair. Why? Because curly hair nature is dominant over the straight है. So that is applicable for human also. ये जो particular concept that he had given long time back, जो at that time was understood to be applicable for the plants, later was seen to be applicable for quite a number of animals, including human. But yes, modifications है. The entire concept strictly does not follow in human. उसमें modifications है. Now, when I say pure tall, कैसे समझ में आएगा? Pure tall means when somebody is crossing these type of plants and F1 में, again he gets pure tall plants. Again he crosses these plants and F2 में again सारे plants tall ही आ रहा है for a number of generations. If you remember the previous I showed, no, that 25% dwarf plants आ रहा था. No, in this generation it doesn't come across dwarf plants at all. Tall के साथ किया, the first generation tall, फिर से F1 का किया, फिर से tall, and this is repeated. अगर ऐसा है, then the biologists or the scientists, whoever is doing this experiment is clear. These are pure tall plants. Similarly, ऐसे dwarf plants भी, they will be able to identify.
Ma'am, hybrid tall and tall when
Height same ही हो सकता है. Height would generally be same. Not necessarily that hybrid, when I'm speaking of, hybrid would be shorter than the pure tall. Not necessarily. Hybrid and pure tall would be of the same height.
If you do the fertilization between a hybrid tall and a tall, then it will give us a tall only.
Hybrid tall and tall. No, hybrid tall and tall, if you do, then all the plants will be of the same height, but some will be homozygous, some will be heterozygous. But the height will be the same. Phenotypically, all are tall. Phenotypically, all are tall.
Heterozygous tall are hybrid tall.
If they are heterozygous, they are hybrid. Okay. So, what is the law now? The first law that we are understanding. What is the law now? The law states. The law states. Now, statement कैसे लिखते हैं? If you have to write down the statement of the law, the statement of the law you cannot modify much. You have to write more or less what has been stated. Statement of the law में कोई explanation नहीं करना चाहिए. You should not start explaining anything there in your own words. Then you will not get a proper mark.
Did it any time like the white color came in the plant?
White color came when he had crossed the F1. F1 जब cross किया, then in the next generation, F2 generation में always he had come across green and yellow and white. But F1 generation में he had always seen these features only. Understood? So now, when we are talking about the law should always start with inverted commas. You should always start with inverted commas and write this way. Now, I will give you, wait. What is the law now? What is the law stating? You have to identify, understand what is the law. The law states, out of a contrasting pair of allele in the F1 hybrid, the allele that expresses is dominant and the allele that remains suppressed is recessive. Very clear to understand? What are you to write? Out of a pair of contrasting allele in the F1 hybrid, the allele that expresses is dominant allele. And the allele that remains suppressed, subdued, is the recessive allele. Understood? First of all of you will write till here. Write till here, and then you will write down the law. This is a typical format of the question you will get in your paper.
This is how you solve it.
This is the working out of a cross. This is called working out of a cross. You will get questions, work out a cross with such and such characters. I'll give you examples. So, इसी method से left side में ये पूरा आएगा, one after the other. What are you writing? And in the towards the right side, ये cross इस तरह से complete till here. Write down the phenotype, then we will write down the law.
Okay.
This is the law of dominance, the first law. The law of dominance, let us complete. Once you are done, then we'll have to write down the statement. Statement always will start with inverted comma. Done, all of you? Let us write down the statement now. Start. Out of a pair of contrasting alleles, right? All of you. Write down the statement. Out of a pair of contrasting alleles in the F1 hybrid plant, the allele that expresses is dominant and the allele that remains suppressed is recessive. The allele that remains suppressed is recessive. So this is the format in which you should write your cross. No. Is it cross? क्यों cross यहाँ पे law वहाँ पे ऐसे क्यों? नहीं. ये क्या?
Transpiration.
यहाँ पे transpiration कैसे आ गया?
I thought कि आप genetics चालू करोगे after.
No, you go to a new page. Go to a new page, start, write neat, nice, and important. Otherwise, in the exam, you will write all this messy, and you will tell me that I taught you this way. Neat, nice, likho. Absolutely, this format you should write. If you want to get full 3, full 5 in those questions.
Mostly Punnett square आता है ना.
Punnett square पे तो बहुत सारे questions आता है. Dihybrid cross with Punnett square majorly will come in the form of a question on the Punnett square on the paper. But you should know because कभी-कभी Punnett square भी आता है. Dominance and segregation तो आता ही है working. Dominance and segregation most commonly to be there in the paper. So, done. Law you have written. Finished.
Yes.
Sure. How did you write down the cross?
In express SN dominant. Yeah, expresses is dominant and the allele that remains suppressed.
ये क्या है? Then don't write twice. ये दो बार क्यों लिखा? ये काटो के यहाँ पे phenotype लिखो. And it should be more or less aligned properly. Aligned properly. Don't make it messy. दो बार लिखने की जरूरत नहीं है. Just write only once. Okay. So this is the first law. Let us go to the second.
That's 2 laws.
The second is the law of segregation.
Are the numbering important?
कौन सा?
Like how Newton's law, Newton's first law.
Numbering कौन सा numbering?
Numbering as in Newton's first law is there. So the first law is that law only. So like the first law is law of dominance.
Yes. This is the
Numbering
first
is
law.
important.
This is the first law. इसपे कोई modification तुम नहीं कर
So I
सकते.
can't write the first law as law of segregation.
नहीं.
Dominance.
This is the first law. The first law is the law of dominance. The second law is segregation. The third law is independent assortment. तो ऐसे specific ही है. So law of segregation, also known as purity of gametes. Let us study this. The law of segregation. This law is also known as the law of purity of gametes. Purity of gametes. For understanding the law of segregation, we'll again have to start from the parental generation. We'll again have to start from the parental generation. Explain the law of segregation, write down the statement. You will not start from here. Though the concept starts from here, but you have to start from the parental generation again. Let us start again. This again you will write in a fresh page. You will not squeeze in and try to write and accommodate in a small space. Huh? So let us start with the first one. The parental generation or the parental plans also you can write. The parent plans or the parental generation. What is the parental generation? Tall crossed with dwarf, meaning tall plants, pure tall plants bred with pure dwarf plants. What is the next step? Genotype, genotype, gametes. When I write the gametes, what am I supposed to write here? One type of gamete. अब या तो one type लिखो या तो two लिखो. That is both are correct. If you are writing ones also, not a problem at all. So gametes, one. Leave space in between. It should be very clear. Gametes. So this is one. This is two chromosomes separated. This is one. Ansh. After the class will be entertained. Now you please do your work. Gametes. The first is first generation. F1 first filial generation. First filial generation क्या होगा? Same like the previous. Fertilization of this two will give rise to capital T, small t. What is its phenotype? Hybrid tall. Since we are talking about segregation, we'll have to go forward. We'll have to go now further. How? Selfing of the F1 plants. Two F1 plants now he selected and he selfed them. So this plant bred with another hybrid. This is also hybrid tall. This is also hybrid tall. So F1 generation plants, when they are crossed, when they are bred, that is called selfing. इसको selfing मतलब self pollination कहा जाता है. This is called selfing. Now again the same rule will follow. We have to find out the gametes. Now tell me, how many type of gametes from this plant?
Two, same.
Very good. Two types of gametes. एक हो गया ये, दूसरा ये. So what is the rule you understand?
Selfing means same type.
Two types of two plants of the same generation crossed. So if it is a heterozygous plant, it can give rise to two types of gametes. In the next law, we are going to understand even more. So heterozygous में probability है कि it will give rise to two types, more types of gametes. Homozygous है तो कोई probability नहीं, only one type of gamete. Whether you are talking about one pair of alleles or 7 pairs of alleles, whatever it is, type of gametes will be one. Okay. Here, what do I write? What do I write?
Big T and small t.
Same है? Yes. Capital T, small t. So now I get two types of gametes. I am to find out the second generation plants, F2 generation plants. We will learn the Punnett square also, and we will learn the crisscross method also. Let us go for the crisscross method first. Crisscross method you can do when the number of gametes are lesser. Type of gametes अगर less है, so you can go for the crisscross method. But next law में हम देखेंगे number of gametes since ज़्यादा है, तो crisscross method becomes very clumsy. So Punnett square is the best method always. So now here we are going to learn both because it is sex-linked inheritance also. The Punnett square concept you should know. So let me go for the crisscross method first. What is the crisscross method? Crisscross method में let me just number them for ease of understanding. You all will not number in the exam. Now just for understanding, very easy for you to understand. 1 and 2, 3 and 4. Why am I numbering them? 1 and 2 are gametes of one plant. 3 and 4 gametes of the other plant. 1 and 2 में कोई fertilization हो सकता है?
मैम T1 T2 और D1 D2
कौन सा D1 D2? One, two, three, four. This is the rule every student understands. अब मेरा question ये है 1 and 2 मतलब these two gametes, can fertilization happen between these two gametes? क्यों नहीं?
Because they are the same.
Gametes of the same parent. Gametes of the same parent. No fertilization. So when you do the crisscross also, हमेशा remember, by chance also you don't take this two to show. Okay?
Can in humans also it can be like X and Y.
Can
sperms
fertilization
do not-
happen between two sperms?
Yeah, it cannot.
Cannot. So two gametes of the same parent cannot show fertilization. It has to be two different parents. So that's why I number them very easy to understand for you. 1, 2, 3, 4 अगर मैंने किया है. So let us check 1 and 3. Clear है? 1 and 3. What should be the genotype? Tell me.
Pure tall.
Pure tall. Okay, or tall. So now, is this correct? 1 and 3. First, we write.
So we are getting 4 offspring.
4 offsprings, 3 times. 3 times.
Two
So
will be
one,
the same.
so keep doing 1 and 3. Next, I will take 1 and 4. क्या होगा genotype?
Capital T, small t.
Hybrid. I take now 2 and 3. क्या होगा genotype?
Capital T, small t.
हुआ मैं वापस
हाँ?
इसमें क्या समझना है? T और T के लिए क्या बनेगा?
Because he is dosing. How will he
मैं
understand?
सुन रहा हूँ लिख रहा हूँ पूरा देखो ये देखो
Next week, I'm going to beat your parents.
मैं लिख रहा हूँ पूरा
What I said, 1, 2, 3, 4. Why did I mark them? 1, 2, 3, 4. These two are gametes of the same parent. Can fertilization happen between 1 and 2?
No.
क्यों नहीं?
these are all the same
Plant, same parent. Similar, 3 and 4 के बीच में कोई fertilization नहीं हो सकती है. So what is the simplest rule that you should write in your paper? 1 and 3, 1 and 4. So I took 1 and 3, I got this.
yeah
I took 1 and 4, I got this. So 1 is done. I take 2 now. I take 2 and 3. क्या
2
होगा?
and 4 होता है
2 and 3 क्या लिखना है?
T small T capital
Capital T, small t. So but then why did not I write small t first? The rule always is dominant हमेशा पहले लिखना चाहिए. Then you write down the. Is it correct when I write this way? No, this is not correct.
No, capital T will come.
This is not a correct
but it does not
answer.
look nice also
हाँ,
it does not look nice also
it does correct. It doesn't look nice also, and this is not a format also. And then last is 2 and 4. What do I write?
Small t, small t.
Small t, small t. Now writing their phenotypes. So when I write their phenotypes, these two are hybrid tall, meaning
You
heterozygous
have to write the
conditions.
name. Tall, hybrid tall.
Yes, phenotype नहीं लिखोगे half mark जाएगा.
Dwarf.
So now we are
On the left side, do we mention it as phenotype?
Yes, no,
Left side, the.
no.
Is there something called hybrid dwarf?
Hybrid dwarf कैसे होगा? Because this is a homozygous allele.
Because of the pure dwarf.
This is the format we write pure tall इसीलिए क्योंकि we are differentiating tallness. Dwarf का कोई differentiation नहीं है because it is an absolute recessive allele. Okay. So now see this. Done? All of you understood till here? Once you write down the F2 generation, how will you write down the F2 generation? Fertilization of gametes of the F1 plant. Clear है? Now here, हाँ क्या हुआ?
I understood
हाँ
Why don't we show 4 for the first case?
कौन सा
In
4?
F1 generation.
कौन सा 4?
Like in F2 generation, we are able to show 4 offsprings.
हाँ
In F1 generation, we only show 2. Why not 4?
इसमें if you show 4, all of them are exactly the same.
Even the 2 are same.
कौन सा 2 are same?
अच्छा नहीं you get it.
ये तो यहाँ तक dominance खत्म है.
Right.
अब यहाँ से segregation actually शुरू है. So यहाँ तक जो मैंने explain किया था, this is all dominance. I took the second concept is Mendel had crossed plants of the F1. तो यहाँ से the next concept है ना. So now out of these four plants, now listen Ansh, out of these four plants that we consider, always you have to remember, out of these four plants, for example, we are taking how many plants are there phenotypically? Phenotypically, how many plants?
Three.
Phenotypically, how many plants are there?
Two tall, hybrid, three to one.
हाँ तो phenotypically कितने? How many types of plants are there?
Three.
Phenotypically, how many type of plants are there?
Two.
क्यों two आदित्य?
Because the parallel
वो tall है,
generation.
ये भी tall है, वो भी tall है, तो दो ही दिखेगा और उधर एक छोटा.
Phenotype मतलब जैसा plant दिखता है. You don't know what the genotype is inside. Phenotype मतलब how does the plant look like? तो ये जो सारे plants है, all of them are tall. All of them are tall, no? How many types of plants phenotypically? Two types.
Two types.
Two types.
Number three.
Phenotypically plants are two. So now we write down the phenotypic ratio. What is the phenotypic ratio?
2:2.
Phenotypic ratio is 3:1 because दो तरह के ही तो है. So phenotypic ratio is 3:1.
There's not a big difference between the hybrid tall and the pure tall.
No, it is only the arrangement of the
Hybrid tall
radius.
can be taller than pure tall.
No, that is not. Never it is mentioned anyway that these plants are taller. Always it has been considered. No, I mean when we talk about all the classical concepts, nowhere it is mentioned that the pure tall is taller than the hybrid tall. They look alike. Like as I said, I may be homozygous for brown eye. You may be homozygous for heterozygous for brown eye. But both of us we have got brown eye. Is Ria able to find out whether I am homozygous or you are heterozygous? No. But both of us we have got brown eye. It's like that. Okay. So now that we are talking about this, Ansh, मेरा कौन सा biology चल रहा है?
नहीं यार वो
Doubt है coach, Aditya, doubt है coach? Doubt है.
saying कि 3:1 कैसे है?
अच्छा, तो पूछो ना. I'm explaining very slow. 3:1 ऐसे आया. Now see this four plants only we are talking about ना. दो gamete of this plant, दो gamete of this plant, and then when we are working, ये working आप समझ में आया? Did you? Or should I do it again?
I understand.
आदित्य नहीं समझ में आया? You understood? If this four plants now you consider, देखो this is also tall. This is also tall. This is also tall. तो चार में से तीन plants tall है कि नहीं? And one plant dwarf है. So simple proportion. What am I writing? 3:1. No, out of four.
Yeah, ma'am.
Out of four, 75% plants are tall. 25% plants are dwarf. आदित्य नो? हाँ? सोच रहा हूँ. समझा? हाँ पूछो.
मैम वो आपने बोला था कि जो ये है हाइब्रिड और प्योर टॉल कंसर्न्स वन फिनोटाइपिक एक ही है ना.
हाँ.
तो हम लोग 1:1 से लेंगे क्योंकि
कहाँ पे 2:1 लिखा है?
1:1
अच्छा. Let me finish this. I think still you are confused. अब मुझे now I write down the genotypic ratio. अब genotypic ratio ये देखेंगे, ये तो सारे tall है, but looking back into the alleles in the chromosome, are they exactly the same? तब पता चला कि ये 25% plants एक जैसे हैं, ये 50% plants एक जैसे हैं, and ये 25% एक और तरह के. आया समझ में? So ये चार का generally scale लिया जाता है. So that's why 1:2:1. आया समझ में? So 3:1 अभी आया समझ में? 3 क्योंकि चार में से तीनों प्लांट दिख रहा है tall. When you look into those plants, you don't understand whether they are heterozygous or homozygous. ये तो बाद में study the cells and the chromosomes and the alleles, then you understand that then you are concluding them as a genotypic ratio. All of you understood this? Clear है?
Yes.
Now you complete. ये पूरा लिखो पहले and then I'll give you one example. Let's see if you have understood. You should be able to write that. All of you will complete this and then we will write down the law first. Let us write down the law first. All of you will complete it here. After the cross is over, then down there you are supposed to write down the phenotypic and the genotypic ratio, and then let us write down the law here. Now we will write down the law, right?
मैम वो कैरियर का मतलब क्या है?
कौन सा carrier?
मैम ये एग्जांपल था वो
वो carrier is not here. Carrier is in sex-linked inheritance. यहाँ पे नहीं. That is for human.
Ma'am, in log segregation, they have mentioned the word factors, that is genes, right?
The factors was a classical term to mention
So in
and
example,
use
factor or gene?
genes. You can write genes. You should write genes. Okay. Now try understanding one more concept before we start stating the law. Abhi, this is a condition. Let me now talk about this cell. ये जो cell है. Okay. Now this is a cell. This cell has a pair of chromosome and the condition is like this. Two contrasting alleles in a pair of chromosome. These two alleles, the rule of genetics say, the quite a number of times what happens is the chromosomes may undergo crossing over, and crossing over होने के बाद ऐसा भी possibility होता है where two genes come together in the same chromosome. Two genes are coming together in the same chromosome. अगर crossing over, multiple crossing over हुआ, then it is possible that this part of the chromosome gets joined with this. So we may come across a recombinant chromosome जहाँ पे ऐसा situation हो भी सकता है where the same chromosome is getting both the alleles together. But that is not a normal condition. That is an error हो गया. That is an error. That is a genetic error. So now, what is the rule that we are understanding? The rule that we are understanding is the statement of the law is also as such that when these two alleles are present in two different chromosomes, they never mix together. They don't blend together. They never come together. Since they don't come together, this chromosome and this chromosome separate out. और since ये separate हो रहा है, that is the reason this chromosome and this chromosome will come together, form this 25% of the dwarf plants in the next generation. So you get a question that how come in the second generation the dwarfness is expressed, whereas in the first generation it is not expressed? Because in the second generation what's happening? The recessive trait of both the parents come together and now they get expressed in a homozygous condition.
Ma'am, what will happen if you breed in hybrid or in pure dwarf?
Pure dwarf. This with this. Then 50% of the plants will be tall, 50% plants will be dwarf.
Plus some X or X6.
50% tall, 50% dwarf होगा. Okay, which is complete with the law. All दुकान बंद हो गया. Law लिख के complete करेंगे. Complete with this. The two contrastingly go fast. Complete with the law and then we'll wind up. The law of segregation. The two contrasting alleles. अंश का तो बेल बजा नहीं कि बंद है उसका. The two contrasting alleles of the F1 hybrid. Contrasting alleles of the F1 hybrid do not mix or blend. मतलब I already told you by the process of crossing. Yes. Do not mix or blend, but segregate during but segregate during gamete formation. But segregate during gamete formation. Okay? Just go through this, find out what is not understood. We will continue again. The next class.
But they will watch it.
Is very nice.
Watch it. और 15 मिनट
Strawberry banana है.
मैं आऊंगा
लगा रहे हाँ
पढ़ना नहीं आता अबे सुनना
फोन लेना मेरा चार्जिंग नहीं है देखो अरे मम्मी बोल रही है मम्मी की चार्जिंग और बैग में चार्जिंग और 15% चार्ज बाकी है बोलो क्या चल लिखते हैं चल लिखते हैं
तू बाहर जा
Don't tell me this is the same value.